Well, good afternoon. Tom Johnson, along with our mayor, Alex Rounaghi. So good to see you, Alex, as always.
Great to see you, Tom.
Gosh, we have a special guest today. And Diane Dixon is, first and foremost, a longtime friend of mine who I've gotten to know through her involvement for many years in Newport Beach as a multi-time mayor, just a pillar in that community. And Diane, it is so good to have you here.
Thank you, Tom. I'm delighted to be here. For my first ever podcast with you and the mayor of Laguna Beach. This is special.
Well, it's Alex makes these things fun. But the thing I want to tell you is I'm glad you're doing two things. I'm glad you're still living in Newport Beach, and I'm glad you're up representing us in Sacramento and doing a great job. In fact, Alex, why don't we start there? You've had a really good year in Sacramento as far as getting things done. And a lot of people, myself included, with past assembly people that we sent to Sacramento, I would always say, well, why do we send them there? They can't get anything done anyway. And yet you've gotten a number of bills passed. Congratulations. Why don't you tell us about them?
Well, thank you, Tom. And I'm just honored to be here. And the reason I went to Sacramento following my time on the Newport Beach City Council and when I was mayor, many mandates were coming from Sacramento imposed. And I know the mayor of Laguna Beach knows this. I know you know this, Tom. And my head is spinning, and I'm saying to city staff, what's with all these mandates that taking away local control? I really never had to emphasize local control until I saw that it was being grabbed from us. And I said to my colleagues, who's going to go to Sacramento and represent the cities? And the point of view, serving on a city council is a very important role. It was probably one of the greatest honors of my life until I was elected to the state legislature because you're really close to the people, you're close to the community. They all have issues related to their property and their property rights and their neighborhood and zoning and land use and the economic vitality of the community. There's so many things you touch and feel every day as a resident in that community. And so there were no hands raised. Nobody looked, they all averted their eyes when I said, who's going to Sacramento to represent the city? And nobody wanted to do it. I said, okay, I'll go. I will run for a state assembly. My husband's still working. Our daughter's in New York as raising our three grandchildren, three grandsons. And Sacramento can be a nice place, so I will go to Sacramento. So I was elected in 2022. Yeah, 2022. And I just finished my third year, and we're getting ready on my legislative program for my fourth year. And so in those 3 years, the last 3 years, I think I've gotten 18 or 20 bills signed into law. So I'm happy to talk about that. And this year especially, I guess I was tied with Josh Hoover. Assembly member Josh Hoover represents the Sacramento area as the most Republican bills passed in the legislature. So for people who say you can't get anything done in Sacramento, yes, you can. I have not been able to reform the state tax code or eliminate CEQA, but these are all issues that I have found an effective way, and that is you kind of deal with existing law and how do you trim it to make it more effective and more responsive. Or if there's always a problem with the current law, and how do I make it more effective or to create new law? And I could talk about some new laws related to e-bikes. So I went up to Sacramento with some specific issues related to land use, related to zoning, sober living homes, which I now use the term alcohol and drug rehabilitation facilities. I think that's a better, and I'll talk about why I do that. And e-bikes has just been escalating as a community issue. So focusing on these issues are not partisan. They're bipartisan.
Yeah.
How can you complain about nobody? There are no two sides. So I do work across the aisle. And sometimes in past history, members of my party were criticized for working across the aisle. It's not compromise, it's working together to get laws passed and fine tuning it. Again, it's not ideological, it's not partisan, it's simply working together. And what that does as a legislator, in my opinion, my personal experience, people trust me on the other side of the aisle and that know that I'm trying to get things done. I come out of the business world. I worked for 30 some years for a Fortune 300 company. So I'm a problem solver. So I see a problem, I want to solve it, and I don't want to impose ideological constraints around it. I do have certain ideologies about local control and being fiscally responsible. I don't like budgets that are in the red. So I do have, those are my ideologies, and maybe a little bit more sensitive on some things related to parental control. I think that parental rights, that's important, and girls' rights, but I'll stay away from those in terms of talking today. But as far as business, I'm pro-business, pro-small business. I could talk a long time about that. Pro-local control, I'm pro-public safety. So when I stay in those lanes, there's a lot bipartisan support, and I can get bills passed. So I'm proud of that.
So, Diane, I'm glad you touched on, working across the aisle or working on things that everybody's interested in, everything like that is. Alex and I have a great friendship. I mean, I love getting on this every week with Alex.
Uh,
And, Alex and I, at the end of the day, we have a lot in common, but, we're not exactly in the same place politically. But I totally respect where Alex is coming from. And I honestly believe that Alex respects where I'm coming from. And the thing I've really appreciated about Alex is he doesn't walk in to a city council meeting and walk in with a flag of his party, waving it and saying, "This is how I'm going to be, this is what I'm going to vote on, this is what I'm going to do," and everything. And I'm glad to see you're doing the same thing. I mean, you go to Sacramento as a Republican, but you also realize that you have to work with other people if you're going to get something done. And
Yeah.
I truly believe, just my own personal opinion, that we haven't had necessarily that kind of representation for many of the previous years, and people have gone to Sacramento as such staunch Republicans or whatever, and kind of not gotten the kind of things they should have done.
well,
And so,
I didn't want to be that
yeah,
way. And I will say the members, all 20 members of my caucus, I'd say all 20 of them are, no, I am the same. We're all trying to get things done. And you kind of choose your lane. There are some people who are more activist oriented, and they mean well and they are activists, but they may not get many bills passed. So I am someone, we all have our lane to be in, and I want to get things done that benefit my community, just as I described. So that's the majority of the caucus is that same way. They do want to represent their constituents and be responsive to their needs. So that's where we come from, responsive, and every district is different. My district is pretty much more red. Assemblymember Lori Davies, because her district was redistricted several years ago down to San Diego or Carlsbad, so it's really purple. So she has to vote a different way. It's the doing what our constituents want informs my thought process. And even in my district, there's a little bit of purple too. So you really, on every issue, you have to think, what do my constituents want me to do?
Alex,
Yeah. Well, I
what's on your
it
mind?
the I think that this is a perfect, start to the conversation because as you know, Assembly member, we first met, I guess that was 2021 in the aftermath of that horrible shooting at the what are we calling them now? The not sober living. It was a detox
And
facility.
yeah,
What's
it's
the
drug
new
and alcohol rehabilitation facility.
At the yes, at the it was this was a detox facility, but there were
Yes.
other drug and alcohol rehabilitation facilities on that street. And when I was working for Supervisor Foley, we worked with you and Councilmember Brenner, and we figured out game. So we started working on those issues together, and we continue to collaborate in my role as mayor. So I guess maybe my question would be on the sober living home issue. What do what progress has been made, and what more is there to do from Sacramento to ensure that these facilities are not just exploiting people for money and sending them to the streets and impacting neighborhoods.
Well, you defined it perfectly, Mayor. Let me tell you, I'm really pleased and encouraged. And it's been a long journey with the cities in Orange County to try to deal with used to be called, I mean, they still call them sober living homes, but I'll tell you why I'm making that distinction. And so on the city council, we had the death in Newport Beach when a resident knocked on the neighbors. He got out, was not supervised, got into a neighbor's knock furiously, broke in the neighbor's front door, and the neighbor awakened it. It's like 4 a.m, comes down and protects his home and shoots the man and kills him. And now he wasn't charged because it was in self-defense. So having all these experiences, and to your point about people come to Newport Beach, come to Laguna Beach, come to Huntington Beach, get sober, or sit on the beach and get sober. We know the marketing is really it's nefarious. I mean, it's a racket. So I went up there and I come out of and Tom knows this. My parents were journalists, so I need the
We're very
facts.
smart people, Alex. Very smart people.
So I was raised, and tell me the facts. When I'm telling a story, my father would say, "What are the facts?" And if your mother tells you she loves you, ask again. So that's what I've always done. Now, my mother and my parents were married for 57 years, so that was all in friendly friendship. However, so I go up to Sacramento, and I learned about a process called the legislative auditing
Mm.
process. And my staff, experienced staff in the Capitol, said, well, let's just do an audit of the Department of Healthcare Services and to understand this whole problem. So it took a process, took a year and a half. The audit came out about a year and a half ago. It took a year and a half, and now it's been out over a little bit over a year. It was October last year. And it was eye-opening into identifying the issues related to sober living homes. So let me just give you a couple highlights, because this informs not just my legislative objectives, but bipartisan, bicameral Orange County delegation is tackling these issues that have been identified in this audit. So baseline, there are there are two state agencies that deal with drug and alcohol rehabilitation. The Department of Healthcare Services only, this is all new news to me a year ago, only offers those facilities only do detox. They do not offer any medical services whatsoever. So an unknowing patient knocks on their door and says, I need to get sober. These nefarious operations, which exist, there are good ones, but there are bad ones, will take them in and file the insurance claim, and oh, this is no medical treatment, so the insurance is denied. So then the second California, and incidentally, DHCS is not consistently following up on complaints. We found that the average
Mhm.
term of complaint resolution was over a year. So I mean, it was just bad. So DHS only regulates detoxification and licensing. So they have to be licensed, but there's really no follow-up on their administrative oversight. If someone complains, doesn't get addressed for a year. Then there is, if audit identified, there's the Department of Social Services, which only provides, their facilities only provide medical treatment, and they are heavily regulated. Well, they're all regulated, but they do follow-up. I'm doing a second audit, especially on DSS, Department of Social Services, this coming year. They're not as problematic as DHCS services are, but I still want to get the data. Data is so key to solving this issue. How many people go into these facilities? How many people come out sober? And how long does it take? I don't want HIPAA related information. I simply want, are people getting well? That's all. And this is why Orange County delegate members over the years couldn't get anything out of Sacramento because it was all considered elitist. Well, in Orange County, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, they don't want these people in their neighborhoods because state law does not prohibit groups of people living together. In fact, it encourages. So if you're in a recovery home, it's a group of people, it's considered a residence. So that's what state law currently allows. Anyway, so I'm going to do the one on DSS. The big finding, sober living homes. We all may know people who have been in a sober living home, and that's a misnomer. They are not regulated, they're not licensed, and they are run by anybody who wants to open up their home in a residential area and say, we're helping you get well, but we have drugs and alcohol here if you want them and during your recovery process. So I've revealed all this. So as a result, I had one bill that went through for the first time. We've gotten a bill through the Assembly Health Committee. I convinced the chair of the Assembly Health Committee, Mia Bonta, Assembly Member Bonta, who's the wife of the Attorney General, and I formed a relationship with her because I wanted to convince her that this isn't about elitism in neighborhoods in Newport Beach who don't want these operators. We want people to get well. And I've told her personal stories of family members and friends. A former council member with me had a son who didn't get well in one of these facilities. That's kind of what alerted me to the problems. And my bill that did get through addressed the actual death, circling back to that issue, that now it's law. The governor signed it. This went through the whole process, thanks to Assemblymember Bonta supporting me on this, because I explained to her that with my own family knowledge of people who've tried to get sober through drugs or alcohol and the frustrations they have because they're not getting medical treatment. So she had not read the audit. I took her through the highlights of the audit. I was sitting at her office around her working table, her conference table. I explained to her my commitment to getting people well. That's all I care about, because I've seen family members not get well because they've been wrongly serviced in these facilities. So that, and then I've told everybody what I'm telling you. This is how we're all talking. Change the narrative. It's about getting people well. This isn't about protecting our neighborhoods. It's getting people well. But on my bill that got through, got signed by the governor a few weeks ago, that requires that if there is a death in a DHCS facility or a DSS facility, that death has to be reported to law enforcement. There has to be a report within 30 days of that, within 30 days, no longer than 30 days of that incident. But within 60 days, the cause of death has to be fixed, mitigated. There cannot be, like, for example, the actual situation, the guy walked out the door of the front door of that facility unsupervised. There must be supervision or whatever. The agency, the facility has to make sure that never happens again, and they have to report to the Department of Healthcare Services. So going forward, so let me just tell you a little color, to give some color to this action. So the bill went through the Assembly, went through Health, went through Appropriations, passed by unanimously by the Assembly, went into the Senate, passed with some technical amendments. So the night that we were there till right before adjournment in September until 3 a.m, we were doing bills. That's a whole other story. That's just a time management issue. But anyway, at 1 o'clock in the morning, my bill with technical amendments comes up on the sober living bill. What was the bill number on that?
AB 1356.
1356, AB 1356. So I stand up to give a 10-second update on that, just technical changes. Senate approved it unanimously. Let's get it through. So I acknowledged Assemblymember Bonta for her support. If she hadn't supported it, it would not have gotten out. And so I gave her that acknowledgement. We voted. It was passed. It's on its way to the governor at 1:30 in the morning. She comes up to me. She's just right a couple rows behind me on the floor, comes up to me to thank me that I acknowledged her role in getting this bill through her committee. She has all the power in this situation. And I stood up, we hugged each other. I'm sure it's on a camera somewhere. And I said, Assemblywoman, thank you. I have 2 more bills that I've held over until next year because they had too many things going on. And I willingly gave that up, but they're still alive. And I said, I look forward to working with you next year. And she said, we will do it next year. And those 2 bills, one relates to the proximity of these facilities to one another, because the audit found out that when the mentally ill were deinstitutionalized in the 60s, 70s, when mental facilities were closed and pushed into the communities with no funding for their help, they've essentially, the audit found out, because these homes in our neighborhoods are aggregated so closely with one another, because these operators own multiple homes and they are essentially operating like an institution. So the audit identified that these homes have reinstitutionalized these patients, and they're back into the mental institution framework all over again. And that's not a good thing. That's not what was intended. So again, helping the patients. And then there's another one related to the insurance, that there will be an attestation when someone is filling out the form to enter this facility for their drug and alcohol rehabilitation. They have to acknowledge that there's no medical insurance, no medical service provided, so therefore there's no insurance that's going to be available. And that is working with the insurance companies to say, you have to stop these people from thinking that they have coverage and they don't. So before they even get admitted, they will know that there's no insurance, and that will keep them from going in there and then getting kicked to the curb when the insurance runs out, because the insurance won't be there. They have to find help where they can get insurance. So working across the aisle with an important committee chair, show her that I am sincere, that I want people to get well. It made a big difference, and I'm very proud. And it's formed the basis. Senator or Assemblymember Avelina Valencia, just got a bill passed based on the same audit. Lori Davies, Assemblywoman Lori Davies, got a bill passed based on the same audit. So we're using this as foundational. That's an objective, unbiased audit that shows how we can fix the drug and alcohol situation. So slowly, I'm going to do these other two bills. Other people are doing them. We will address and get these people well. And that's what we're all aligned on doing that.
That's great. You know, I want to move into kind of a different direction, but before I do that, can you give me your website for those that are seeing this that want to go in and check out your other bills and things that have passed? What is Diane Dixon's website?
Okay, it's what Diane Dixon at Diane dot what is it? Diane Dixon ASM.gov. Wait a minute, I've got a business card.
Well,
But
if
anyway,
they just search Diane Dixon
there's
Assembly, I bet
Diane
it'll
Dixon.
come up.
Google Diane Dixon, and you get there was a personal site and then my state site, and you just
Okay.
assembly, and you'll get into the assembly site.
So who knew the toughest question of the day was going to be, what's your website? No, I'm
So
teasing.
many of
I'm
them.
teasing. I don't go into mine all the time either, so
Well,
I know the
yeah,
issue there.
what
No, I wanna kind of switch gears for a second because kudos, congratulations, you've done a lot in Sacramento, and I can tell you're so enthusiastic about talking about it and things like that. So somewhere along the line in the last 6, 9 months or whatever, Diane Dixon has decided, through probably a lot of thought, to give up her role in Sacramento to run for Orange County Supervisor in the 5th District against Katrina Foley. How did you come to that decision? And then I want to talk to you about, differences between you and Katrina Foley. But how did you come to that decision?
I don't know if Alex really wants to get into this.
No, Alex wants it.
Okay. Um, well, the front end of your comment, I do enjoy Sacramento. And a lot of people typically ask me, you've asked me, oh man, how do you stand it in Sacramento? Well, I feel a commitment to just having another voice. As we all know, with recent history here, that there's really one party, a super majority in Sacramento, and I'm in the super minority. But I feel we still have to have a voice. I mean, that's our democracy, frankly, is to have a two-party system and not eliminate the other party. That's a whole other subject. But that's why I'm in Sacramento. But and I'm giving up a safe assembly seat that I am immensely proud to serve the people of the 72nd district. I wasn't looking for running for supervisor, honestly. It wasn't on my bucket list. I was very happy traveling to Sacramento and back and forth every week. On Mondays you go up and Thursdays you come home. I've gotten used to that. I've done it for 3 years. It's fine. And my husband's very supportive, and my dogs miss me and I miss them, but we managed. So anyway, Orange County is an important county. It's I think the 4th largest county in the country, and a lot of important public safety, homeless issues, efficiency. I come out of the business world. I mean, efficiency, looking for ways to always make things better. I worked for CEOs my whole career, and one I quote all the time: if it ain't broke, look again. There's always a way to make something work better, cost less, and create greater value. So that is really my mantra. I look forward to being successful in this endeavor and being part of a majority. So at the end of the day, to be part of a majority in a legislative body, I look forward to doing that. I'm also recently proud to say that I guess we're going to be issuing this notice. So I do have a majority of the current board who supports me. Supervisor Chafee has endorsed me. So I feel we could get things done without the partisan, and then it's a nonpartisan agency or board. So I look forward to getting out of the partisan politics perhaps, and just really getting things done that really need to be done. I think there's tremendous opportunity in Orange County to develop economically. The OC Business Council has just named me Legislator of the Year. They know how hard I work for business, small business, big business. A lot of small businesses are clearly the backbone of our national economy. And the regulations on small business, whether county driven or state driven or federally driven, is suffocating our small businesses. And that's why they're leaving California, and many are leaving Orange County because of the cost of housing. And that's another important issue. And going back to Sacramento this next year, because I will serve the full term regardless of what happens in the June primary. I'll serve until the end of the session, which is August 31st, 2026. CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, in my opinion and many other opinions on both sides, even Buffy Wicks, who's the chair of housing in the assembly, wants to reform CEQA. I want to reform CEQA. We all know that that is adding significantly thousands and thousands of dollars to the cost of housing in California, thousands of individual dollars for an individual residential unit. And the crime, I mean, I use that term loosely, is that it's prohibiting generational wealth. I mean, my husband and I bought our first home in 1977, and that provided the basis for our life. I mean, the quality of real estate in Los Angeles and Orange counties in California has enabled so much creation of generational wealth. And if people are just living in apartments, that's a problem for our future. So I'm committed to housing reform, CEQA reform, whether it's at the state level or when it's at the county level. And given my experience at the state level, which I think is unique, so I've been in private industry for 30 years, more than that, knowing how business operates. I bring that mentality to everything. I've been at Sacramento. I know how difficult that is, but I know kind of the ins and outs now. Took me a year. And then operating, and then at the local level, I've been on the city council and mayor. I know how the cities work. So I feel I bring a unique perspective and balance, and I'm pro business expansion and development, and that's who I am, and that's what I would like to be, and help a majority of common sense legislative activity at the county level. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Alex in just a sec. I just have one little follow-up. You know, you can always pick somebody to run against and go for an office and whatever. Let's not kid ourselves. Katrina Foley, who is the incumbent in the seat you're going for, has a record of campaigning harder than just about anybody there is. What's it going to take for Diane Dixon to win that seat?
Well, that's a good question. Thank you for asking. I don't know if there's any harder campaigner than I. We'll win that race together, I guess. But in terms of campaigning hard, the demographics of District 5, this is really what's appealed to me. Before I said yes, I we'll get into the politics and nitty gritty, because I was asked to do this, and I said, and I won't. I've got several considerations, qualifications to make before I give up my safe assembly seat. Can I win? Number one is the number one question. Will the important Republican, I am Republican, obviously, organizations support me? Because the reason Supervisor Foley is in office is because in the last race, 3 Republicans ran against her, split the vote, and she got the majority vote. So this District 5 is a Republican district, has 24,000 more registered Republican voters than Democrat voters, and then there are some independents. I've always won with across the board. Even Democrats have voted for me, Republicans and independents. And on a numbers basis, I do have the name recognition because my assembly district is about 47% of the supervisor district. So there were a lot of factors, quantitative factors, that said I could win this race. And being the only endorsed Republican candidate makes a big difference, because we're not fighting amongst ourselves and causing dissension. Everyone's unified behind me, so that gives us strength. And then also, even more importantly, as we know with this week's election, whenever this runs with the November 4th election, This is practically the last Republican office that is being contested to save a position on the Board of Supervisors ultimately. So that is what this is all about, is to common sense, balance, and represent our people. And I'm not critical of how her representation, but I could do just as well. And I look forward to a good race. It will be a hard fought race, expensive, but it will be hard fought. So thank you.
Alex, jump in here.
Well, I just want to, I think the goal of doing these discussions is that a lot of the problems that we deal with in Laguna Beach, there's, we at the city level, there's things that we can do, but we can't comprehensively solve them. For example, fire safety. We can invest in fuel modification. We can invest in, rebuilding our fire station, doing things like that. But with fuel modification, for example, we have to deal with coastal development permits, CEQA, and so that's why we need collaboration at the state level. So essentially, the goal is to bring people from all levels of government to figure out what are the issues. And so I'm grateful, Assembly member, for your record of public service and your friendship as we work on how we can make Laguna Beach and of course Orange County and the people who you represent, how we can solve these big problems and deliver public safety, invest in infrastructure, make government more efficient. I think those are three things that we share, and so I just
I have a bill.
appreciate.
I have a bill, as you know, it's a 2-year bill. Bring it back. It's because the Natural Resources Committee was overloaded with because of the fire, the Palisades fire. But to do exactly what you just described, I'm doing on your request is to allow for the fire safety, fire mitigation, wildfire mitigation in coastal zone, not to have to be exempted from going through CEQA and the Coastal Commission. So that is going to be contentious, but it's still alive, and it'll be before the Natural Resources Committee next year. And we'll fight really hard for that, because we've seen with the Palisades fire, going through all those
Yep.
permit steps is ridiculous. And Laguna Beach certainly has a history of fire. In fact, I had a meeting just this morning with some Newport or Laguna Beach residents on the fire issues that they're concerned about, protection issues and mitigation efforts. So that's what I want to do, is solve problems for my constituents and for my cities. And it's always been great working with Laguna Beach and Dave Kiff, our former Newport Beach city manager. You now
Yep.
have, so it's always a pleasure working with Dave and city staff and your council. I feel I have a great relationship with all members of your council, and I'm always available to help. And on Laguna Canyon Road and
Yep.
what we're trying to do, whatever you want, I'm here to help you.
We
You know,
appreciate it.
Diane, I thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today. There's a lot out there. I would encourage people to, go in and check out Diane's website. She is out and about, particularly at this time of the year when she's not in Sacramento. She's out and about a lot in our community. I was doing some stuff yesterday, and I was seeing all the different programs. You're out there connecting with the residents. So I would encourage people to check in, find out what those are. You can find those in her letters in Stew News that comes out, every month. She keeps the community abreast. She's done a great job of that for us. I thank you so much, and I wish you continued success in Sacramento
Well, thank you.
and continued success in your campaign effort to win the supervisor seat.
Well, I appreciate that. And both of you, it's just such a pleasure. And Tom, you're the last great journalist that serves
Exactly.
our communities. And you're a real journalist, and that you want the facts and you tell them like they are. And I really respect that. And Mayor Alex, you're just a great partner on so many things we both want to do for our communities. And I'm here to help. I say I'm from the government. I'm here to help. And that's what I do. So, gentlemen, thank you. I
Thank you.
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Appreciate
Alex.
it.
I appreciate you always.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.